All right, we got kind of a different kind of tournament going on in golf this week, and I can't think of anyone better to talk about it with than Jason Sobel from the Action Network. I'm Adam Kaufman. Jason, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Adam.
Well, let's first off the mouthful here. We got the WGC-Dell Technologies Match Play Championship, and of course, it is the time of the year where college basketball goes absolutely crazy. You got March Madness. Well, we can't go and let college hoops have all the fun. We have a bracket style tournament going on in golf this weekend in Austin, Texas. So talk to the people a little bit about how this works.
Okay, so it's not like, and they used to do it very much like March Madness, the NCAAs, where you would have 1 through 64 and you'd advance every single round. Now they started with a round robin competition. So every player's in a 4-man group and you play 3 matches Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and one player will emerge from that group to the Sweet 16, and then they'll kind of play in match play from there with an elimination tournament. So it's not exactly the same, but it is very similar. And Adam, I will tell you that if you have one St. Peter's in the NCAA bracket, you'll have 8 of them in this thing. There is no such thing as playing the chalk in the match play championship. Last year, what they do is they have 4 different pools. So the top 16 seeds in one, the next 16, the next, and the next. And so you have an A, a B, a C, and a D in all 16 groups out there. Well, from Pool A last year, only one player, John Rahm, made it through to the Sweet 16 to the weekend, and 8 players from Pool D, half the players from the lowest seeded pool, made it to the weekend. So again, if you're going to fill out that bracket with all the big names and lots of chalk, that usually doesn't work out so well.
So all of that in mind, how does your approach to betting a tournament like this change versus obviously just a standard tournament?
Well, I would advise going after some long shot plays this week, just because that's what we've seen over the last few years. We had Billy Horschel, who was the 32 seed, win this thing last year. 2 years before that, the previous edition, Kevin Kisner won from the 48 seed. And so, like I said, there isn't much recent history to tell us, hey, you know, the best players in the world are going to win this thing. Doesn't mean they can't. Doesn't mean a John Rahm, a Justin Thomas, a Victor Hovland can't go win this thing. In fact, one of those players is very much on my radar screen this week, but there's definitely some value in looking further down the board.
Let's find out if that player on your radar is John Rahm. You've mentioned him a couple of times. He is the world's #1. He's the top golfer out of the 64 in this tournament. And he also has plus 1,200 odds to win this thing on the DraftKings Sportsbook. How do you feel about his chances?
I do like John Rahm. I will bet John Rahm to get out of his group 1, against Patrick Reed, Cameron Young, and Sebastian Munoz. I think that's a nice matchup for him. I don't really see anyone that's going to go take him down. I like the form of Munoz and Young. I like the intensity and fire and match play of Patrick Reed, but I don't necessarily see the combination of the two that's going to knock off John Rahm. So I like him to get out of the group, but I'm not playing him to go all the way. And so, again, 12-1, it's a really short number in this type of format. And I'm going to stay away from John Rahm for outrights this week.
You know, we haven't talked about DraftKings' own Bryson DeChambeau in quite a while, rightfully so. He hasn't played in a while, but he is returning to this thing. He is a 9 seed for the tournament, 40-1 odds on the DK Sportsbook. What do you think of that number, given obviously that we haven't seen him in a while?
Yeah, I'm going to fade Bryson right now. It's, first of all, not a great course for him. Does not have great course history at Austin Country Club. And secondly, he tweeted on Monday night, put a video out there of him hitting drivers under the stars in Texas at night. And so it's, you know, kind of looked like he's just starting to hit driver. I mean, this isn't like, hey, I've been doing this for 3 weeks and, you know, it feels really good right now. This is kind of just starting to ramp up towards the Masters. And he even said as much. The fact that he's not necessarily looking at this week, he's looking at 2 weeks from now is really when he wants his game to be in form. So if he's not considering this week as a big one for him, I'm probably not either. And so I'm going to fade Bryson this week.
A 12 seed Jason with plus 3,000 odds also happens to be the defending champ, and that is Billy Horschel. What do you think his chances to do it again?
I do like Billy Horschel. Billy Horschel's got a nice combination of ball striking and putting skills that seems to work well in this type of format. He's also a fiery competitor. But when last we saw, he had withdrawn from the Players' Championship on Monday. Remember, that was a 5-day event just over a week ago. And so I had a little sinus infection. I want to see how he's feeling. I want to see how he's doing. I don't hate him in his group. The group is not a fantastically talented group, but I am a little wary of Thomas Peters in that group, who he's got a high ceiling and a low floor. He's a high risk type of play, but he can make birdies in bunches. Peters is the guy that I'm really looking at to come out of that group. And again, there's some risk involved there, but I'm not so sure I'm jumping on Horschel once again.
64 guys, Jason, and it's, of course, as you highlighted before, 16 groups of 4. If you can't fall in love with a guy that you want to bet, one option that I really like, more suits somebody like me, is that you can target a certain group that you'd like to bet on the DK Sportsbook. Is there one that stands out to you?
Yeah, so I'm going to look at Group 9, and you mentioned Bryson DeChambeau already, and he was a guy that, just because he's coming back off injury, he's a guy that I'm looking to fade this week. And so when the groups came out on Monday afternoon, I saw him with Lee Westwood. Don't love Lee in this format. Lee's now 48 years old, not playing his best golf. Richard Bland's even older than Lee Westwood. Richard Bland's playing okay on the DP World Tour, but nothing great, doesn't play too much golf over here in the U.S., and then there's that Pool B guy in that group, Taylor Gooch, who's played some really good golf already this year, won for the first time on the PGA Tour back in the fall portion of the schedule, has 5 finishes of top 30 in 8 starts so far in 2022. I really like Taylor Gooch to come out of that group. He's right around plus 225 to make it out of Group 9. I think that's a really nice play this week, Adam.
How about somebody who just struggles in match play that you're fading this week?
Ooh, that's a good one. Trying to think about, guys that just don't really get into the format. You probably want to look at guys who struggle with the putter. And so I don't know that he's necessarily played enough of these things to know if he struggles or not. And certainly he's good enough to go win. But Will Zalatoris is a guy that we look at and say, boy, his ball striking is so good. If he could just make some of these mid-range putts, he'd be a world beater. And yet it just doesn't seem to happen for him. Putting is just super important in match play. You've got to be able to keep yourself in holes that you're not in. You've got to be able to win holes that you're supposed to win. I just don't know that Will Zalatoris' putter is going to be able to carry him through 6 or 7 matches this week. So he's a little bit of a fade for me, but not a huge one.
Who is going to win the WGC-Dell Technologies Match Play Tournament here?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, fade the chalk, make some big time long shot plays, dig deep in this thing. We've seen some big numbers win over the last few years. And yet my favorite play, and Adam, I didn't plan it this way, no preconceived notion, but I went through match by match and I got to the bottom, and I have Justin Thomas winning. He's been playing really well, had another title contention in Tampa, the Valspar Championship this past weekend. He's been 8th or better in 7 of his last 10 starts. The guy just, he can't quite get through and break that ceiling to get that next PGA Tour victory. It's been over a year since his last win at the Players last year, but maybe just having to beat one other player against him every single match, I think that should work well for JT. It's a short number. I get it. I'm going against everything I believe in here, but I do like him this week.
I just want to fill out a bracket, Jason. This time of year, any bracket, I don't care. College basketball, women's basketball, men's, women's, whichever, doesn't matter. Marvel, superheroes, 90s hip hop. Just give me a bracket.
I will take my 90s hip hop bracket over yours, Adam.
I can't wait. Jason Sobel, Action Network. Thank you, man.
Thanks.